I received the most shocking information from my father the second I turned 18 years old. I mean, literally, the second I blow out my candles, my phone is ringing, and it's from my father. And you won't believe what he's telling me I have to do for my stepsister.
My dad has been changing gradually since Mother died, especially since Angela, my stepmom, and Christine, my stepsister, joined my small family and started living with us. I've ignored the way they treated me and the fact that they were turning my own father against me, but I won't tolerate what my dad just asked me to do. Both he and Angela have refused to listen to anything else I had to say, and have threatened to kick me out of the house if I don't start contributing to Christine's college fees for next year. No matter how hard I try to justify their actions, particularly that of my father, I can't. Unfortunately, the clause that comes with me working for Christine's fee is upsetting. And even if my dad had not meant it, I'm sure that Angela will see to me being kicked out. Before my new step-family came into my life, things were not so easy for me and my dad. Especially since my mother passed away when I was 16, due to cancer. My dad, who had spent most of his life savings, was devastated after his death. For good reason. He had lost the woman he loved and was married to, and to someone to take care of what little to nothing was left to his name. The one thing I admired was the fact that he was able to quickly step up and begin to work to cater for the two of us. It drew us apart because he barely spent time with me, and I just decided to keep to myself, busy to help out. My dad was against it in the beginning because I was still young, and he did not like the idea of anything distracting me from my studies. But after convincing him that I would be fine, I got a part-time job. And one became two, I learned to sell digital products. I could tell that my dad appreciated it, and even thanked me in little ways after seeing how worn out I would be on some days. Not only was I taking care of my basic needs, I was soon able to assist in paying the bills and getting groceries. He was glad that I wasn't lacking anything, and I was glad that I was able to help him out. A few months, maybe 5, after my mom died, I met Angela. Apparently, she was a friend of a friend and really hit it off with my father. She had also helped out with my mom's hospital bills, which automatically made me like her. I didn't even mind the slight romance I noticed between them, because as long as my dad was happy, I was happy as well. And Angela was quite friendly in the beginning, always wanting to know how I managed school and work and asking about the guys in my class. She made sure to take me out sometimes, and I remember thinking to myself, I won't mind having this lady as a stepmom. Then shortly after I met Christine, who was the only downside to having Angela in my life. At that time at least. Christine was extremely rude and unpleasant when I first met her. I wondered how she and Angela were even related. My dad also was not the biggest fan of her attitude then, and Angela would always blame it on Christine's father. She was in the process of getting custody of Christine, and soon after that was accomplished, Angela got married to my dad. I was happy for them, despite it meaning that Christine was now a permanent part of my life. It's been a little over a year since the marriage, and I'm shocked that my dad changed so much in such a short amount of time. Angela changed too, but that doesn't surprise me so much anymore. What's clear to me is that she pretends to be a nice person in the beginning, just to get on both me and my dad's good side. It was something I saw a few weeks after living with her, and I don't know how I didn't see this earlier, because I believe I'm pretty perceptive. It may seem weird talking about my stepfamily like they're bad people without giving any good reasoning for thinking so. Christine has always been a pain in my side even before she became my stepsister. When we first met, she made it clear that she did not like me much. Angela had tried getting her to interact with me when my dad wasn't around, something she forced herself to do when he was present. She had told both Angela and me that she would much rather play games on her phone, and Angela was upset then, and I had thought it was because she hated the way her daughter was treating me. Well, now I know it's because she was worried. I would tell my father. I did not, and chose to just ignore Christine as well. If I had known that Angela wasn't who she pretended to be, I most likely would have, but I'm glad that Christine showed her true colors from the beginning. We avoid each other unless I absolutely have to be with her, and I'm glad I did not have to force myself to like her company. There was this one time when Christine borrowed an expensive dress that I had gotten for myself, without asking me for it. It upset me when I found out she took it, and like that wasn't bad enough, she had ensured that the dress was ruined. I made a big deal out of it, and after pretending to be sorry, she managed to convince my dad that she had ruined the dress by accident. My dad had pleaded with me to forgive her, and had not asked her to apologize or give me some money to replace the fixed dress. She told me that the dress would not have looked good on me anyways, and that was when I knew it was all an act. On another occasion, I stayed out late because I had a tutor, a student of mine. I went home and realized that my key was not with me and called Angela. She had peeked out of the window to see that I was indeed outside. But did she open the door? No! My dad wasn't around at the time and he was out with a few friends. I tried calling his phone, but nothing. I had to stay out and wait till Dad arrived, and Angela's excuse was that she had been sleeping when I called her and did not know that I was outside. There's multiple instances, and each and every time Angela always manages to get her way. I wonder how she's always manipulating my father to the point where he doesn't see things from my point of view. I usually let things slide when my family's being unfair, but when he asked me to contribute money for my stepsister's education, I took action. I approached my dad the next day and stood up at the doorway to his bedroom till he was ready to listen to me. I asked him why he made such a ridiculous request, and in the beginning he was silent because he knew I was right. Christine was old enough to make enough money as well, and I did not recall her doing anything to fund her college fees. Eventually my dad had replied, reminding me that he was head of the house and that this decision was final. His reply was so dumb that I started to raise my voice at him. I told him that I was not going to do anything against my will, and that if the money was indeed so bad, there were banks to get loans from. My yelling attracted Angela to the bedroom, and after finding out what had happened, the woman looked me in the eyes and promised that I would hate the consequence if I refused to do as my father instructed. My dad just stood there saying and doing nothing, and I then challenged Angela, asking what she would do to me. There was really little she could do that I could not recover from. I was more than ready to retaliate if need be, but when she mentioned kicking me out of the house, my confidence got slightly deflated. See, my dad had not said anything to counter it, so I knew that he agreed with Angela. He had come to see me in my bedroom the other day, and I refused to let him in, yelling at him to leave me alone since he has refused to listen to his daughter, and is now being manipulated by Angela. Yeah, I said it, and it earned me some extra choices, but I can't care less. Anytime I think about it, I get so angry. But now a little bit of fear comes with it. Angela will see to it that I'm kicked out, because she always has her way. And yes, I have some money, but I'm not ready to live alone and pay all those bills. As much as it pains me to say this, I'll contribute to Christine's college fund. It's not like I have a choice. What's up, everybody? Oh man, today's story is getting insane. But just wait till update 1, which came out just a month later. You're not going to believe what happens there. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you take a second, hit that subscribe button to help support the channel. And also, you never miss a juicy story. Alright guys, here's update 1 month later. Before looking for better work to help out with Christine's fees, I talked to my father without Angela's presence, so she would not influence him. I'd sympathize with him and told him that I would help out, under one condition, that both Angela and Christine contribute as much. I reasoned that it would take a while to raise a significant amount of money if only 2 people instead of 4 were putting in maximum effort. He seemed to understand and had promised to speak to my stepfamily about it. It was hard, but I managed to make some good money this past month by working more hours than I usually did. I gave my stepmother half of it, but she was not satisfied and asked for more. I told her that I was equally saving up for myself, and that got us into an argument. At least my dad did not take any sides this time. I would have stormed out in anger if he had agreed with Angela. It was then that I learned that Angela was not contributing anything to her daughter's college fund. I know for a fact that my dad had informed her to do something to help out. My father had told me that she promised to try harder, but I knew that would not happen. Not in this lifetime. Christine most likely was not doing anything either. She was worse than her mother and would probably not last at her workplace if hired. I confronted my dad about it, and he said that Christine had tried to get something to do, but apparently she has not found anything she liked. Anything she liked? I asked if he was being serious, and just like he did with Angela, he convinced me that they would start working soon. I bothered him for a week because of this, going to his bedroom to ask if either of them had gotten a job. Sometimes it was Angela who had stepped out to answer me, and the smug look on her face when she told me that she and Christine were working on it was more than enough for me to know that she was lying. She was shameless, she had no plans whatsoever to contribute, and all that responsibility fell on my shoulders and that of my father. We had a family meeting some days after, which was just 3 days ago. My dad told us that he had plans to quit his current job, as it wasn't paying so well anymore. I was against it because his plan was to quit and travel out of state, because Angela's cousin had a job opening there. It's not because I was scared of him leaving me alone, but I wasn't a fan of chasing a job I wasn't sure I'd get. Angela had assured my father that he would get the job if he traveled. And so my pleas got ignored. My dad will be leaving in 2 days, and I keep having a bad feeling. Something else that's happened this month is seeing Christine spend more than usual. I'm not sure why this came to mind, because she's barely ever crossing my mind on a norm, but I've noticed more shopping bags in the trash in her absence lately. Maybe I was wrong, she might have gotten a job, as shocking as that is to me, or perhaps someone else is giving her the money she's depending so lavishly on. Lucky her, I guess. I just hope everything goes well with my dad's travel. If not, we'd be in some serious financial issue. Update number 2, 6 weeks later. Well, things don't go as planned. My dad went ahead and resigned from his job, only to qualify after the interview he flew across the states to attend. I was furious because I had warned that this would happen, but seeing the shock on Angela's face was funny. Did she really think that her cousin would secure a spot for my dad in the company he hoped to work for? If he was among the executives, maybe that could have happened, but he was an average employee. Angela had called him her cousin and yelled in his ear, and I felt bad for the guy. Now my dad's hunting for jobs again, and I suggested that he tries to get the old one back. But he smiled and told me everything would be fine. Did he lie? Yes. It's been a little over a month since my dad's travel, and the only reason I haven't left the house, is him. Angela drops peanuts when it comes to groceries and the little expenses. Christine can't even be bothered, and my dad is spending his time going for interviews and looking up jobs. I, on the other hand, have gone from saving 50% of my earnings to saving 20%. All that money is spent on the house and Christine's fees. Oh, and recall when I mentioned Christine spending money lavishly the previous month? Angela had given her some money from Dad's savings to, quote, learn a skill. She had squandered the money on nonsense, and when my dad tried taking out his savings, he realized that a huge amount was missing. Yeah. Angela had also invested some of the money in her business, buying designer handbags and brands and whatnot. What neither she nor Christine could produce the money, my dad gets mad at them. But it barely lasted a day, and he was back to looking for a job to do. I later found out that Angela had taken the money to spend on herself and Christine. How did I find out, you might be wondering? Well, Angela is fond of having conversation with Christine when my dad is out. It's spontaneous, so it hardly ever happens, but I make sure to wear headphones when I'm around them. I'm known for blocking out the people in the house for my sanity, and Angela always assumes that I'm deaf once I have my headphones on. I just maintain a poker face and keep busy in their presence, and typically listen to snippets of fear of being caught. That's how I knew that my stepfamily was not what they pretend to be. Angela was chastising Christine for spending her money out in the open. A little bit more of eavesdropping, and I got the whole gist. It was upsetting, and I wondered how my dad would feel if he learned the truth, but I knew better than to tell him what I overheard. It would mean Angela and Christine finding out that I listened in on their conversation, plus who knew if they would concoct something to shift the blame to me. Not that that mattered anymore anyways. I stayed in the house and tolerated everything because of my father, who it turns out loves his new family more than me. Christine had gone sneaking around in my room for a few hours ago. This time I caught her in the act and we got into a fight. She claimed to have lost something in my room, but that was the most ridiculous excuse that she's made in her life. She hardly ever came into my room, so how could she have dropped something in here that I would not have found so easily? My dad and Angela came in and separated us, and I knew I was in trouble because I had injured Christine. I explained myself to my dad, and to my surprise, I got yelled at and insulted to the point where I was close to tears. The names my dad called me are things I don't want to recall, and I could not sleep when I tried forcing myself to. It ended up being a good thing because I would not have overheard my father and Angela talking about taking the money in my college fund, the one left by me from my late mother, to take care of the house and bills. I'd left my phone close to the door to record their voices as they spoke because it was hard to hear, and when I had gotten back to my room and listened to it, I was totally shocked. Even after working so hard, they still wanted to take what my mom left? The rage in me could not agree what I heard, so I confronted my dad about it and I told him that he would not lay a hand on the money left to me and that he should find alternatives to getting money. You know what he did? He ended up punishing me, and now not only am I responsible for all the household chores, he's promised to take out all the money that was left to me for college. Apparently, the plan was to take most of it, but now nothing will be left to me. This is unfair, and I'll have to think of a solution before he goes along with his threats. Update number 3. 2 weeks later. I'm not sure how I managed to remember my grandfather, but I contacted him to see if he would help me to talk some sense into my dad. I sent him a link to the recording I had along with an email addressing the issue at hand. His number was not going through, and I used the email my mom left me in case I needed to keep in touch with him. I couldn't visit since he wasn't within the state. It took some time, but 10 days later I got to know that my grandpa received my message and was very upset with my dad. He had called and yelled at my father for threatening me and making me work very hard, only for my money to be taken. My dad had called me to the living room looking very upset, and he asked me why I did what I did, and I told him that I was tired of being the breadwinner of the family. He then asked why I had not complained to him before, and I told him that he never listened to me when I did. I remember thinking, "Are you serious, Dad?" when he asked me that question, and this was the man that would ignore the obvious truth and turn a blind eye to it, as long as his new family told their own truth. Long story short, we got into a serious argument. I was accused of being a selfish daughter who wanted to leave her family and run off to college. I accepted it wholeheartedly. If wanting to have my peace of mind away from a family who did not appreciate or value my self-worth, then I was the most selfish person I knew. My dad had promised to leave my college fund for the time being because my grandfather asked him. I've met my grandpa a few times, and the last one at my mom's funeral, and he was a scary-looking man. You know, all those people that are very unapproachable but sweet when you get to know them? Well, then horrid when you get on their bad side? That's my grandpa. My dad also told me that my actions would have consequences, and after 1 week of inaction, I totally forgot about it. I had thought that the entire issue regarding my college fund had been put to rest, until I went home 3 days ago to see a few of my things outside the house. The smug look on Christine's face as she stopped me from going into the house told me all I needed to know. I'd been kicked out because I retaliated and went to my grandpa. I tried pushing past her, but Angela stopped me and told me my father wants me out. After asking to speak with him, I discovered that he wasn't even home and could not care what happened to me. I didn't leave right away, and when Angela realized I was, going to be stubborn, she locked me out of the house. I waited for my dad for the longest time, before realizing he wasn't going to show up. A small part of me likes to think that the reason behind his absence is shame, but I'll never know. Thankfully, I knew a motel that wasn't so far away and stayed there for the night. The next morning, I called my friend to ask if I could stay over for a few days. She felt sorry for me, and that's what pushed me to contact my grandfather again. I made sure not to leave out any details and even had plans to contact the police. I would have if I had not gotten an email from my grandfather as well. This time, I got a contact number along with instructions to leave the police out of everything. When I asked how he was going to convince my family to leave me alone, He told me he would take care of it, I just had to sit and wait for him to do so. Update number 4, 2 weeks later. Well, I don't know if it was up to a day after contacting my grandpa that my dad starts calling and texting. I didn't take any of his calls because I was upset at him, but the texts were pleas for me to go back home. Angela called as well, and I gave her an audience for a minute. She told me that my dad realized that he made a mistake by kicking me out, and he wants me back. I was moved by my family's display of affection till I realized another email from Grandpa. He told me that my family would want me to move back because he had mentioned saving thousands of dollars to help with my college fees. In the end, I went back home. I didn't want to be a burden to my friend, and, the calls became annoying after a while. The atmosphere at home, it was different. And for the first time in a long time, my dad hugged me and asked me for my forgiveness, repeating what Angela had told me. And after a few days, I was the most relaxed I'd ever felt. Since my dad remarried, no one bothered me, no one asked for anything ridiculous, and I was left alone most of the time. It didn't last, though, because the next thing I knew, we had another family meeting. I was informed about the money my grandfather had for me. They didn't know that I knew about it and asked if I would be willing to give them some money, since I already had savings and what my mom left me. After reminding them that they had kicked me out of the house, I left the meeting. The shamelessness of my dad, really? Is this what happens when a family is going through financial issues? The next few days after the reply were full of emotional blackmail and unsolicited help. I was reminded that my dad has no job. Christine needed money for college and even schooling for the next school year. Angela wanted to venture into something new, and that I had more than enough money for that. My chores were constantly done for me, or I was assisted in the process. Normally, I'd have no problem with giving them most of it, if not all of the money, but they've shown me that they only value me because of it, and I won't be doing them any favors no matter how guilty I feel for not helping. After that came the threats. I was told my mom's money was going to be taken yet again, and all the kindness died down. Everything was back to normal, which was disappointing but expected. When I inform my grandfather, he tells me that he would be visiting in a few days, and I was to keep it a secret from the rest of the people. I wonder what his plan is. Final update, 3 months later. I guess it's safe to say that my family won't be bothering me for money in my college fund, or any money for that matter. My grandfather made sure that after arriving at my home with a lawyer, my dad had been very surprised to see him, and after ushering him in, he called me downstairs. My grandfather immediately accused them, stating that they were being very hospitable because of money. He also mentioned both my dad and Angela, and, he threatened to take the money left to me by my mom. My dad denied everything, but before I could step in, my grandfather had taken out his phone and played the audio I sent him. My speechless father could not do a thing, and Angela had stepped in and tried to defend my dad's actions, insulting me in the process. After my grandfather has defended me by reminding them of my age, he had asked Angela how she helped the family financially. Well, that shut her up. My dad then tried to salvage the situation by asking for forgiveness, but my grandfather told him that he could not be forgiven until after, doing nothing when I got kicked out of the house by Angela. I don't know if the next thing I'm about to say was part of my grandpa's plans, but he then instructed my dad and Angela to leave the house with both parties. They tried to defend their actions. What I do know is that my dad had gotten very angry and refused to do anything. He even threatened to call the police on me and Grandpa, who had encouraged him to go ahead. The lawyer had given my dad a few papers which showed that he owned the house, not my father or any member of the family. My mom had been given the house as a gift, and my dad had naturally assumed it was his when she passed away. To make matters worse, my grandfather had given everyone else except me 3 days to leave the house before exiting. I'd been disappointed in my dad's actions. Even when grandfather was there and had shown him all his faults, he still threatened me and defended himself if, I didn't do anything after my grandfather left. I ignored all the hatred shown to me by my dad. He eventually left, and after 3 days, I went to stay with Grandpa, who will be leaving the state next month. I still have some time before I start college, and I can't wait. My dad has tried to keep contact by calling and texting, asking for money more times than not. It only goes to show how little he has changed, and Angela and Christine have left him. He told me one time I took his call. He's struggling to make a living, and as pitiful as it is, I won't be doing anything to help him out. My grandfather told me that my dad was different from the man he knew. Angela's doing, and that he deserved to be punished for what he did to his biological daughter. In the end, I could not argue with that logic. I can only wish my father the best, but I don't want anything to do with him.
You ruined everything, is what this comment of the story starts off with. Let me know what you think about this comment. Here it is. You ruined everything. And you're here talking about how much your own father deserved what he's going through. Your stepmother was right about you, even though some of her actions were a bit too much. Can you blame her? The poor man's struggling and trying to reconnect with you in some way, and this is all you can do? Try to work on yourself before college. You seem like one of those people that love to play the victim card, and you have no idea how annoying it is to some people. Do yourself a favor and set yourself straight. Guys, I want to know, do you agree or no? It seems like a lot of people were split on this one. Maybe not as much as that comment, but some people did agree. Let me know what you think in our comment section down below, and if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's story, and like always, I drop a video every single day, so make sure you hit that button, the subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.